Lucas Grant was an ordinary man, living a simple life as a package delivery driver. But everything changed in a single day when he witnessed an elderly man being robbed in broad daylight. Without hesitation, Lucas stepped in, saving the man from an uncertain fate. What he didn't know was that this act of courage would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. Who was this mysterious old man? And why, just hours later, did lawyers show up at Lucas's door with an offer he could have never imagined? The answer might not only alter Lucas's future, but also uncover secrets no one was prepared to face. Lucas Grant was just an ordinary guy, the kind you'd walk past on the street without noticing. He worked as a delivery driver, spending his days behind the wheel of his old van, crisscrossing the city with a smile on his face and music playing on the radio. He didn't have much, but he had enough. A roof over his head, food on the table, and the satisfaction of knowing he'd done his best by the end of the day. But everything changed one seemingly normal afternoon, a day that started like any other, but ended in a way no one could have predicted. It was around 3 in the afternoon when Lucas stopped at a red light. As he waited, he heard shouting coming from a nearby alley. Without thinking twice, he pulled over and ran toward the noise. There, he saw an elderly man being held by 2 men, struggling to hold onto a bag as they tried to yank it from his hands. Lucas's heart pounded, but he didn't hesitate. "Hey, let him go!" he shouted, charging toward the attackers. Caught off guard, the 2 men released the old man and took off running. Lucas hurried over and helped the man to his feet, noticing he was shaking but otherwise unharmed. "Are you okay, sir? Do you need help?" Lucas asked, concerned. The elderly man, with gray hair and weary eyes, looked at Lucas with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Thank you, young man. You saved my life today," the man said, his voice calm yet heavy with meaning. Lucas insisted on taking him home, but the man declined, assuring him he was fine. "My name is Arthur Bennett," he said, shaking Lucas's hand with surprising strength. "I hope that one day I can return your kindness." Lucas smiled, assuming it was just a polite way of expressing gratitude. "No need for that, sir. Just take care of yourself, all right?" he replied before heading back to his van. He had no idea that this brief encounter would change his life forever. Hours later, back at home, Lucas heard a knock at the door. When he opened it, 2 men in suits stood outside, holding a folder and wearing serious expressions. "Lucas Grant?" one of them asked. "Yeah, that's me. Can I help you?" Lucas replied, confused. "We're attorneys representing Mr. Arthur Bennett. He sent us with a proposal." Lucas frowned, trying to make sense of what was happening. "A proposal? What kind of proposal?" he asked, as the men stepped inside. Seated in his small living room, one of the attorneys opened the folder. "Mr. Bennett is an extremely wealthy man, but he chooses to live a quiet life. He was deeply impressed by your bravery today and has decided that you are the right person to receive a significant portion of his fortune." Lucas nearly fell out of his chair. "This is a joke, right?" he asked with a nervous laugh. But the attorneys weren't joking. They explained that Arthur Bennett was a billionaire philanthropist who preferred to stay out of the spotlight, and that he saw something special in Lucas. "But there's a condition," the second attorney added, locking eyes with Lucas. "You'll need to go through a series of tests to prove you are worthy of this inheritance." Lucas was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Money? Tests? An inheritance? It all felt like some crazy dream. "And if I say no?" he asked hesitantly. The attorneys exchanged glances. "That's entirely your choice. But Mr. Bennett believes you have a good heart, and this opportunity could change your life for the better." Lucas looked around his modest home. The worn-out couch, the coffee table covered in old magazines. He had never dreamed of being rich, but the thought of helping his family and living a more comfortable life was tempting. "All right," he finally said. "What do I have to do?" The attorneys smiled, closing the folder. "All will be explained soon. For now, just know that Mr. Bennett is watching. And Lucas, be careful. Not everything is as it seems." With that, they stood up and left, leaving Lucas alone with his thoughts. He glanced out the window at his van parked on the street. His life was about to change, and he had no idea what was coming. Meanwhile, somewhere in the city, Arthur Bennett sat at his desk, staring at a photo of Lucas with a mysterious smile. "You have a good heart, young man," he murmured to himself. "But are you strong enough for what's ahead?" Lucas woke up the next morning with the feeling that everything had been a dream. But the folder left by the attorneys on his table proved otherwise. Inside, there was an envelope with instructions. "Meet at the address below at 10 a.m. Come alone." He got dressed quickly, still trying to process what was happening. The address led him to an old building in the city center, with a discreet sign that read, "Bennett Foundation." Upon entering, he was greeted by a woman wearing glasses, who guided him into a dark room where a large screen lit up. Arthur Bennett's image appeared, smiling calmly. "Lucas, welcome to the first test. Today, you will face a difficult choice. Choose wisely." The screen went dark, and Lucas was led into a room where a ragged man sat crying. "This man needs help," the woman said. "You can give him money, advice, or simply walk away. The choice is yours." Lucas looked at the man, saw the pain in his eyes, and without hesitation, pulled out his wallet. "Here, take this. I hope it helps." Chatuhi, man thanked him, and Lucas was taken to the next room. For the second test, he found a pregnant woman who claimed she was desperate for a place to stay. "My husband left me, and I have nowhere to go," she sobbed. Lucas thought about his small home, but he knew he couldn't leave her on the street. "Come with me," he said, determined to help her, even though he had no idea how. The woman smiled, but as they reached the door, she vanished. Lucas was confused, but then a voice echoed in the background. "You passed the second test. Kindness without hesitation." The third test was the hardest. Lucas was placed in a room with a crying child, who claimed to be lost. "My dad is looking for me," she sobbed. Lucas tried to comfort her, but as he approached, the child suddenly screamed, accusing him of trying to kidnap her. Out of nowhere, two people burst into the room, pretending to be police officers, and started interrogating him. Lucas remained calm, explained the situation, and insisted on helping the child find her parents. In the end, the officers revealed that it had all been a test. You stayed calm and honest, even under pressure. That is rare. When the tests were over, Lucas was taken to a room where Arthur Bennett was waiting for him in person. "You did well, Lucas." "Better than I expected," the older man said with a proud smile. "But there is still much ahead. Are you willing to continue?" Still trying to process everything, Lucas nodded. He had no idea what to expect, but he felt he was on the right path. Lucas started spending more time with Arthur Bennett, and each meeting was a life lesson. Arthur wasn't just a wealthy man. He was a philosopher, a storyteller, someone who saw the world in a way Lucas had never imagined. They visited places Lucas never even knew existed. A homeless shelter downtown where Arthur quietly donated food and clothing, a children's hospital where he funded treatments for kids with rare diseases, and even a prison where Arthur spoke with inmates, offering them hope and a chance to start over. Wealth isn't just about money, Lucas. It's about what you do with it, Arthur would say as they watched a group of children playing in the park of an orphanage he helped support. Lucas saw the impact Arthur's fortune had on people's lives and began to understand the weight of the inheritance he might receive. But something still bothered him. Why had Arthur chosen him? What was so special about a simple package delivery driver? One night, after a modest dinner at Arthur's house, Lucas finally asked, "Why me, Arthur? Why not someone with more experience? Someone more prepared?" Arthur looked at him for a moment, as if deciding what to say. "Because you have something money can't buy, Lucas. You have a pure heart. And that, my boy, is rarer than any fortune." But not everything was as simple. As it seemed, Arthur began showing signs that he was hiding something. One day, Lucas found him staring at an old photograph, his eyes filled with tears. "Who is that?" Lucas asked, curious. Arthur hesitated before finally answering. "My son. He's been gone for many years, and I never got over it." Lucas felt a lump in his throat. He had never imagined Arthur carried so much pain. One day, Arthur took him to an old house on the outskirts of the city. It was an imposing structure, but abandoned, with an overgrown garden and windows covered in dust. Inside, photos and documents told the story of Arthur, a man who started with nothing, built an empire, but lost his family because of his obsession with work. "I made many wrong choices, Lucas. Now, I want to make sure you don't make the same mistakes," Arthur said, his voice heavy with emotion. At the end of the visit, Arthur handed Lucas an envelope. "Here is your final test. Open it when you're ready." Lucas was intrigued, but decided to wait. He knew that whatever was inside would change his life forever.